All right, football, it is officially underway. We're knocking on the door. We got week 1 of the NFL season. We've got week 2 of the college football season. It's Northwest Football Preview. It is episode number 2 for us. Mike Yam, Nick Aliotti, Nigel Burton with you. I'm sitting there. I'm watching games all day on Saturday. I'm in bed. I got it on my phone. I'm watching Nige, on the sidelines on the CW, and I'm thinking to myself, what's Coach Aliotti been doing all day on Saturday? Fair to assume you got the large Coke, the big gulp, so to speak, next to you, just watching games all day?
6 a.m. to 11:30 at night. I sat on my chair. I don't think I took 200 steps all day. I might have had to get up to use the restroom once in a while at my age, but the bottom line was my poor wife hates Saturdays. I did not move. I saw every game.
Which is
hey, Yammer, you know that every time the dog started yapping at somebody or had to go to the bathroom, all Coach did was yell, "Cap, get the dogs!"
100% right. I didn't make any points. She was not happy, but she'll get over it.
just to be clear here, like you retired a couple years ago. Like, does Kath miss you being a coach and being away? Like, I would have thought that she would have embraced you being just right next door in the living room in front of the tube.
I think she embraces me being around. She just doesn't embrace me being not present.
Yeah, there's no difference. You might as well not either.
All right,
yeah, Saturdays I'm basically not there. So.
Okay, that might be a fair assessment of how to describe this. But in all sincerity, because you mentioned 11:30 at night, and that's when essentially Washington State wrapped up. This thing, I was texting you during the game. I'll leave the private conversation you and I were having. We'll put that out there. I was concerned, Nige, for the Cougs. This thing was way closer than I would have thought. But I think maybe the best starting point here, because you were there, you did the coaches' meetings. We did the show last week. We thought Zevi Eckhouse was going to get the start. That didn't happen. He's sitting third on the depth chart. What do I need to know about this quarterback situation?
Yeah, I think ultimately the coaching staff came in and it was a clean slate for all the players. And, and it's not speaking negatively on Zevi. There may be where there was the lack of sense of urgency. I think ultimately what it came down to is the fact that Jaxon Potter was just efficient as a quarterback. And you saw it at moments in the game. He didn't make a ton of bad decisions. He didn't hold on to the ball and take unnecessary sacks. He didn't, and those are things they saw in practice. He didn't turn the ball over a lot. Like all those things that I think maybe plagued Zevi in practice. And so they gave part of the start, and then they really feel like Julian Duggan can be a guy. So, we saw it on that drive where he went 6 for 6. They scored a touchdown. I kind of was like, take the chains off the kid and let him spin it. But ultimately they have a philosophy where they want to be able to run the football, and that's where they struggled, and that's why they struggled, I think, throughout the night.
Yeah. Coach, what did you see when you were watching the game?
I was impressed with Potter. I really was. And like Nigel said, and Nigel was there up close and personal, did an outstanding job, as he always does. When they let that kid loose a little bit, he did some nice things. The first thing I noticed as soon as I turned it on, a little bit off what we're talking about, Washington State plays their D-line 1 yard off the ball. Did you get any info on that, Nigel, why they were doing that? Or did you notice they're a yard off the ball?
Yeah, Coach, I couldn't tell you on that one. I think the one thing I think when they're going to watch film, it's going to be a little scary for them, especially maybe not this week against San Diego State, but must terrify them when they're going against a Washington team that ran for like 200 and whatever yards in their first game against Colorado State, was the fact that their linebackers just were not showing up very fast. So Idaho was able to double team and push those guys off the line of scrimmage for a good amount of time. When you flip the script and you saw Washington State trying to run the football, Idaho linebackers were showing up so fast that they weren't able to really push the line of scrimmage. So I think those are things that they really got to be able to fix in terms of running the ball and defending the run this week.
Okay, but I do think from a defensive perspective, and Nick, when you've been in these situations when you were at Oregon, it's week 1, it's early, it's an opponent you're supposed to sort of handle here. I didn't see many explosive plays. I don't think there was a play that was over 15 or 16 yards. Did force 3 turnovers in this one. I know that they were out there. There were some tense moments, especially in the second half when things got a little close. But how do you rate what you saw on the defensive side?
I was impressed with how hard they played, how many hats they got around the ball, how aggressive they were, how sound they looked to be. It looked to me like a well-coached defensive team. It really did. Now, how they match up with other teams moving forward, because they're better than Idaho, We'll see. But I was impressed overall with everything they did on defense.
Now I take it San Diego State, that game, 7:15 local time on the CW. Biggest key, like, what do you want to see in terms of the development of Washington State? You were on the sidelines for week one. You saw you point out some positive things, some things that you were a little concerned about as well. What's that one thing that you're really keen in on for this matchup against the Aztecs?
I just think for this offense to really work the way that they want it to work, they have got to run the football. They've got to be more efficient running the football. I think there was some stat that I saw that they only ran for like 3 yards in the game on like 22 carries now. And that maybe I'm crossing streams on another game, but I just know they really struggled to get a run game going. And so they have to be able to do that for this offense to do what they want it to do.
Yeah, Nige, you're going to be busy this week, man. College football season is a busy time for you. You were on on the Palouse. You're heading to Corvallis this coming week. That was not necessarily a pretty display from an Oregon State perspective against the Cal Bears. They get Fresno State. We'll talk about that matchup coming up next. Welcome back to Northwest Football Preview, along with Nick Aliotti and Nigel Burton. Mike Yam with you. They got smacked. I don't know how else to describe it. I'm flipping around. I'm watching different games. I look up at the screen, and Cal's already on top 14-0 against Oregon State. I know we loved up this team. Malik Murphy, we couldn't wait to see that debut. Thought he played pretty well, but offensively, there was a vibe for me, Coach Aliotti, where it just seemed like the old Oregon State of last season, last couple seasons, and the inability to put points up on the board. And I know in the second half there were some glimmers of hope, but what was your assessment of what you saw against the Bears?
Well, I'm going to start off. I like the quarterback. I like the quarterback a lot. Murphy, I think he's an athlete. I think he's one of the better ones they've had in a while. They did not run the ball like an Oregon State needs to do. That's kind of been their formula, Mike. Run the ball. They only rushed the ball for 65 yards. Now, I think Cal's a pretty good team, but we're not talking about Cal. They didn't run the ball very well. It just was a really bad start, and I think Cal's a pretty good team.
Cal, I think, is a really good football team in my mind. Look, they lost some close games last year, but Nige, I see you smiling there. Are you not buying that?
No. I mean, I'm buying
Okay.
it. The coach laid it out the way that it happened. I just think it's one of those games where, and there's an old coaching saying, it's never as good as you thought. It's never as bad as you thought. I think it's one of those games they're going to look back and they're going to say, listen, we found every way to screw this up that we could,
Yeah.
right? You talked about too many guys on the field. But there was a moment, it's 14-3, and they're driving, they're in field goal range. They run a tight end screen and they fumble it. And then turn around and give up a field goal. I mean, that was a huge swing. They had momentum. They were moving the football. Very easily, they can go in at halftime just down 14-10. We're talking about a different ball game. I think it was one of those things where the score maybe didn't really indicate that they did some nice things. They were just, again, they just couldn't put it all together. They kind of found ways to stub their own toe. And it just, to me, it just looked worse. The scoreboard looked worse than it really was.
But I think from an Oregon State perspective, you're sitting here shaking your head going, oh boy, like there's potentially some problems here. And I just get concerned. One last note here, because Nick, you had said this to me off air, and I think it's important. You can have the guy, because there's all these different programs that are paying quarterbacks, doing the whole deal. You can have a talented quarterback. That is not a guarantee for W's here. You're still concerned about some of the pieces around Murphy.
Yeah, I never want to knock kids, but I didn't see enough explosive players to help Murphy. I mean, I don't watch him day in and day out. Trent, the receiver, Walker, number 7, I think he's still a very good football player, but just not enough weapons, in my opinion, right now.
Yeah, there might not be a more devastating injury in the entire Northwest than Darius Clemens going down for that offense. He was a guy, we all saw what happened against Boise last year. He's a guy that could get behind people, who, even when he's hitting intermediate routes, can make guys miss and be explosive. Him being done for the season with that Achilles is going to be a major problem, and they're going to have to try to find somebody to take the pressure off of Trent Walker offensively. But Malik Murphy can spin it. He can make the throws. So just find me a guy. Go to the track team. Somebody's got a guy. Take the
Staying
top off.
staying patient. Fresno State in Corvallis, 12:30 Pacific time on the CW. Nigel will be manning those sidelines. I'll be texting you, and hopefully we're talking about a win. I'll be in studio with you, so I'll be kind of hanging with a close eye on this particular matchup. All right, the mandate is in. Moving forward, we're going to do a tally here, and we're including the spreads here on our picks. Let's do it. If we're going to do it, Coach Ali said it, we got to do it right. So that's exactly what we're going to do on this one. Beavs 3-point favorite. Nige, you're going to be there for this one.
I think this was gonna be tough, man. Fresno State is tough. I think Oregon State squeaks it out, but only by 1. So I think Fresno State covers, but Beavs win. What do you think?
I'm taking the Beavs to cover. I believe in Trent Bray. I think they rebound. They get some things right. I'm taking the Beavs to cover.
We spent a lot of time talking about the Cougs to start this thing off. They get San Diego State. They're 1.5-point favorite. Nige, who you taking?
The biggest improvement most teams make or win, Coach. Week 1.
Second week, from week 1 to week 2.
I think the Cougs get it together. They take care of business and beat San Diego State by more than 1.5. Might be 3, but they'll beat them by more than 1.5.
I don't know enough about San Diego State yet. They play at the Palouse. Washington State has to get a running game.
Come on, Coach, do it.
I'm going with San Diego State.
Oh, I did not see you going down that path. All right. Look, you had said it at the start. You were concerned about what we saw in week number 1 from Washington State, and nonetheless, backing it up with this pick. I'm glad you went a little different here. Let's make this a little interesting. Next week, we'll tally this thing up, see how you guys have done head-to-head through the first 2 weeks. But Coach Aliotti Nigel, always awesome working with you. Cannot wait to do this again next week. I hope everyone enjoys the game. Thank you so much for watching Northwest Football Preview.